Have you ever felt as if you were your child's personal fullback, knocking chores, adversity, negative experiences, and disappointments aside so that they would have a clear field to success? I myself recall working well into the night to help my daughters, editing their papers, running to the store for a new swim cap, making healthy snacks for team practice, reworking my schedule so that I could be on hand for tomorrow's emergency. All this so they'd have time to do the hours of homework, AP classes, sports practice, volunteering, tutoring, and part-time jobs that somehow had been determined as essential for any student wanting to succeed in life. Well, if this sounds like you or someone you know or someone you're afraid you may be becoming, stay tuned. Today's show is all about sharing the importance of letting our children, our teens, fail so that they may succeed as adults.
Brought to you in part by Nimbus Design.
Hello and welcome to Breaking the Cycles, a show where we share valuable information to change your life. My name is Lisa Fredrickson, and today I'm going to be talking about the brain research and science-based answers that explain how letting our children, our teens, fail can actually help them succeed as adults. Now, in my defense and that of other parents, my daughter's childhood and high school years were far more complicated than anything I had experienced as a kid. And for that reason, I thought that what I was doing was being a good parent. Okay, so maybe I did go over a bit of times, but back in the day, prepping the SAT exam meant simply finding a number 2 pencil. Sports meant playing a season. Homework could be done with what was at hand on my own time with no parental oversight or after-dinner trips to the craft store. And weekends and summers were just endless hours of hopping on our bikes and heading off with the only admonition ringing in our ears, be home in time for supper. We sorted out our own teams, fights with friends, and created our own adventures and rules. And for us, going to college was not a life or death decision. We applied to a couple, and we went. Fortunately for my daughters, life threw me a curveball, and I was forced to take a good, long, hard look at some things. And in the process of researching my issues, I learned a great deal about the brain. Yes, the brain. I was stunned to learn that all of my helping, my expectations for them, my being there to pick up the pieces, were actually harming their brains. How? My daughters were wiring brain maps that undermined their self-esteem, self-reliance, and chances for an amazing life because the subliminal underlying taking away message of my actions sounded something like, "That's not good enough. I don't think you can make the right decision. Here, let me fix it for you. This is what you'll need to do." At first, I couldn't imagine how I was going to put the genie back into the bottle, especially given the technology that adds an immediacy to just about every interaction, especially given my daughters were in their late teens when I started. And especially because of the pressure on our teens to be superstars before they even graduate from high school. Something so well presented in the documentary film, Race to Nowhere. Nonetheless, the three of us agree that my understanding the brain changed my approach, which of course helped me get out of the way and let them take charge of their lives. So I'd like to share some of what I've learned about the brain, because much of it is just 21st century. Why so recent? Remember back to 1960 when President Kennedy challenged the country to put a man on the moon and bring him back to Earth before the end of the decade. And we did it. Well, that's what happened in 1990 when President Bush challenged the nation to finally understand the live human brain. And as with the moon effort, that challenge unleashed unprecedented collaboration, funding, advances in technologies, and an explosion in discoveries, causing the 1990s to be known as the decade of the brain and the 2000s to be known as the decade of brain discoveries. New imaging technologies like functional MRI and SPECT allowed neuroscientists and medical professionals to study the live human brain in action and over time, to actually see how the brain develops and understand that the brain controls everything we think, feel, say, and do, and to appreciate that our brains are not hardwired. In fact, from birth to puberty, the brain wires trillions of neural networks. As the 100 billion neurons we're born with start talking to one another, and to and from the thousands of billions of other neurons in the body via the nervous system. This talking amongst neurons is called a neural network, and it's the neural networks in the brain that control everything we think, feel, say, and do. Think of it this way. If all of our brain cells were wired at birth, we'd come out capable of doing calculus, running marathons, driving a car, or whatever else it is we're capable of doing as adults. Instead, we are small, cuddly little infants capable of eating, crying, sleeping, smiling. You get the picture. As for the wiring itself, some of our networks are instinctual, meaning that they're wired into the species, like the drive to eat when hungry, to sleep, to fight or run when faced with danger, to reproduce. Some of our neural networks are by repetitive activation, like typing, playing a sport, driving a car, doing calculus, or singing opera. Either way, neurons that fire together wire together, forming embedded brain maps for everything we think, feel, say, and do. But back to the brain and its development. This is a 10-year time-lapse study of the developing brain. Just let the colors sink in. The darker colors to the right represent brain maturity, which means that something clearly changes from 12 to 20, and with new research showing it can continue through age 25. There are 3 key reasons for these brain changes. The first is puberty. Puberty is a time of extensive hormonal and physical changes that are hardwired into the human species to begin around age 12 to prepare the species to reproduce. Also occurring at this time is significant development in the cerebral cortex areas of the brain, the thinking part of the brain, the portions of the brain responsible for judgment, memory, learning from our mistakes, and the brakes on the risk-taking, pleasure-reward portion of the brain that's so active in teens. And lastly, a pruning and strengthening process that was never before understood, meaning the neural networks that are being used get strengthened, wrapped in myelin, to improve the speed and efficiency of the networks commonly used, while those that are not being used fall away, get pruned. Not that they die, they just go into disuse. So, what does all this have to do with failing as a child, a teen, and thereby succeeding as an adult? It means the neural networks being repetitively activated, being practiced from birth through our early 20s, often to 25, will be the ones that are strengthened, embedded, for the things we'll do as adults. How we will cope, our self-confidence, our capabilities to handle adversity, everything. Which then brings me back to the purpose of this program. I'm not suggesting we abdicate our roles as parents, nor pine for a return to the way things were back in our day. But I do encourage us to better understand the brain and how it develops, so that we can better understand how best to help our children, our teens, and at the same time bring down their stress level with the immense pressures to succeed during this critical time of brain development. In this manner, when we give our children the opportunities to explore, to make mistakes, and to have uncomfortable consequences, we allow them to form some very important brain maps. The best part of all this is that it's never too late, even at my age. To learn more about the brain and its development, check out the partnership at drugfree.org's Guide to the Teen Brain. To better understand what this race to nowhere is about, visit their website and listen to young people share their feelings like these. I can't remember the last time I had a chance to go in the backyard and just run around. I would spend 6 hours a night on my homework. Or, how do you expect us to do well when we can't even make mistakes? And while you're there, answer the call to mobilize families, educators, and policymakers to challenge current assumptions on how best to prepare our youth to become healthy, bright, contributing and leading citizens. And lastly, look for a repost of this show at BreakingTheCycles.com, where you can add your voice to the conversation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Peninsula TV is proudly brought to you in part by Nimbus Design, helping Penn TV, businesses, government, and nonprofits with their web technology and design needs. Nimbus Design combines art and technology to help businesses connect directly with customers, partners, and the public. Located in Redwood City, the heart of the Silicon Valley. They can be reached on their website at nimbusdesign.com. Nimbus Design, a proud sponsor of Peninsula TV.